Hi everyone, this is a fairly quick review of how to review and assess a particular assignment for our participating teachers, which will be FACT Self-Assessment Standards 5 and 6. So right now you can see I'm sitting on where it says Year 2 Induction in the Dropbox, and here are the assignments throughout the course of this year. And one of the things you'll notice, which can clue us in right away, is that this particular assignment we're talking about is right here. I don't want to click on it yet. It's in between FACT Module C and the Inquiry and Action Plan. So what that means right off the bat is that the teachers have completed one of their inquiries for this year. They then visit their FACT self-assessments because after their inquiry and period of time teaching, we're hoping that they've moved their practice forward in some ways, and so we want them to revisit these particular standards. Then, hopefully, after that review and discussion with their support provider, they're going to make a plan for their next inquiry. So it's very purposeful as to where this falls. So let's go ahead and click on 2-5. And so one of the things I wanted to point out, if you're sort of new surfing around haiku in this way, is obviously the participating teachers' names come up alphabetically by last name. This is a perfect example. So if I've gone into review, notice this is saying to me that for me, Angelica Alvarado has contributed something new. She submitted something. It shows one is handed in, I haven't replied to it, but it's got an X. X meaning it's complete. So what haiku does is until I handle that document, it is new to me. So what I want to do is go through, even though it says it's new, it's been graded. I'm not going to look at that. In order to open it up and get rid of this little bolded one new, I would have to open up the entire document. So I'm going to be here all day opening things that are already graded. So I'm going to go down to the first one, which is this particular teacher. She's handed it in. There's no grade yet. There's no comment. That's the first one I'm going to tackle. We're not going to be grading Priscilla's, but I'm going to open it as an example for those of you that maybe haven't come into this particular page too many times. So this is Priscilla. She has one submission. That's typical for some of our assignments or induction requirements. There's more than one submission, but this shows me that Priscilla submitted it on January 28th. There are two ways I can get to this document. I'm going to go ahead and click on it here because this is going to be my preferred way. This is going to open up in a way that I can annotate it. I'm going to enlarge it here so I can actually read it. I can annotate this right on the screen. If I have trouble, I'll show you. I can go back and download it. When you get ready to make comments or to sign off or whatever you want to do, the comments that we use most frequently are highlights and text. Highlight, you can make any color you want. Text, you can make any color you want. I typically make it something other than black so that it stands out. I want the PTs to be able to see anything that I'm looking at. So when you use this text box, you click on text, you select your color. I'm going to select blue. Pretend I've already looked at this. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to click and you see a box, and here are my initials after I've reviewed saying, oh, this is fine, this is acceptable, this meets the standards for what we're looking for. If I can type my own initials. So I've reviewed, this is fine. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put my name. Hopefully if you can type that as well. And the date. I'm making one up, 3/30/14. Now, I don't want this to go in, obviously, so I'm going to get rid of all these. Sorry. Okay, I took out all my initials because I haven't really reviewed this. I'm going to want to hand this back to the student. Priscilla is going to need to be able to find this fact verification form and to see everything I've either commented on or that I've signed it. So she can see it once I hand it back. I don't have to click Mark as Reviewed and Hand Back. So I'm going to hand that back. I'm going to pretend like I am, and I'm going to go back to submissions. So here we are, we're pretending like I've already graded this. And what we're going to do, move down here, just it won't let me. Okay, so what I'm going to do with Priscilla is I'm going to write a message. Now, I cannot tell a lie. I have in a Word document, I have different standard replies. I do customize each one, but rather than retyping the basic 3 or 4 sentences, I have something there that I can copy and paste, and then I do customize it for each person. I put in their name specifically, so I might have, "Hi, Priscilla." I want to make sure that this person knows I know who I reviewed and that I'm speaking directly to them. I'm going to type my response. Okay, I paused the recording because what I did was I went over and picked up some of the responses that I have saved in Word documents. And I want to show you, if you're not familiar, how you copy and paste. So I'm going to copy this and close it out. I'm going to go to Haiku. In order to be able to paste, this won't let me paste it directly, at least in my program. So what I have to do is Control V, and it pastes it. So normally I'm going to do what I really would do. I'm going to go, "Hi, Priscilla. Your responses are clear and to the point of the prompt, and you have included both strengths and challenges. I have signed off on your fact verification and handed it back to you. Thanks for your work." I might add something in here about a specific standard, one sentence. Thank you for being so reflective regarding your responses to Standard 5 or Standard 6. I want to let the person know I've read it, that I recognize that they've included both strengths and challenges. Then I'm going to send, which I'm not going to do right now, of course, because I haven't looked at this particular one yet. So I'm going to pretend like I've sent that back to Priscilla. So here's that first page. If I had sent her a message, it would show up right here, and it would say Elisa Casella, and you'd be able to see the text of the message. I can go over here, and this is where I'm going to put my X. You want to click away from the X and make sure it's saved. Now I'm going to also put a comment. I'm going to put today's date, whatever it is. Now, if I've written only 2 or 3 sentences in a message, I might copy and paste exactly the same thing here. But this is intended to be a little bit shorter, so sometimes I just have, "Hi, Priscilla. Please see the message left in this Dropbox, EJC." So that tells Priscilla this has been reviewed, the grade is an X, there's more information in an actual message in the Dropbox. I also, particularly on these, I often have one that I copy and paste, because if I'm going to do that 20 times, it doesn't seem like much, but when you're doing many, many of them, it is. Notice here for Priscilla, it took off one new. I'm going to have to remember to go back to that. And it's got her grade as an X. We want to take that off so that somebody else coming along will see that it's new and they need to review it. Okay, that's the nuts and bolts of getting into the assignment and how to take a look at it, put in a grade, put in comments. This is an actual one. This is not Priscilla's that has been uploaded. And so you see I've taken the names off. The first piece is the fact verification form. This is the summary sheet. So what that means is, suppose that Tammy reviewed this and she said, you know, this is really terrific, but a couple of pieces need to be resubmitted. Suppose I go in to check on the resubmission. I'm going to see her message, and it may or may not have anything that tells me where to look. Then I'm going to come here to fact verification. I'm going to see what's already been accepted, what needs to be resubmitted. So this way I can go straight into whatever it was that the participating teacher needed to revisit. So notice over here, here is the title of the standard. Here are the expectations. That's exactly where I'm going to start. Critical pieces that we look for. Has the PT responded directly to this to this standard via the prompt that's included? So we'll take a look at that. I don't want jargon and buzzwords. If someone says, I consistently use SADAI strategies, I don't know what SADAI means to them. So we're looking for very specific information. When we talk about referencing where this would be found, I'll show you when we get there. There is a box on the self-assessments that we do not require teachers to complete. However, they may have. So let's take a look. Here's the first induction standard, Pedagogy E2-5. On the far left is the text, a portion of the text of this particular induction standard. Then a portion of that induction standard is here in a prompt. So what's happened is they've pulled out student assessment data, and here's a prompt specifically to that. Down here is evidence. Teachers do not need to complete this portion. Some of them will, that's terrific. They do not need to. So if it's absent, that's not a problem. Over here, describe your strengths and challenges related to the assessment. This is the initial self-assessment. And we're looking at February 2014. Okay, so the self-assessment that we're reviewing currently is their initial one for this year that was due in January. They're going to be submitting a second one after their inquiry and before their second inquiry, if that makes any sense. So notice I selected this one for a number of reasons. This person, they've got the date here, so we know when it was done. They really clearly delineate strengths and challenges. So helpful when you're reviewing these, not required. So what we want to look at is what the teacher is saying, and first of all, does it really answer this prompt? There are times where teachers perhaps slightly misunderstand the prompt or just don't quite get directly to how they do that. So for this teacher, I use monthly student academic goals created at grade level PLC, district assessments, and my teacher observations to determine which students have met standards and which need intervention. I feel confident implementing the district standard assessments. This can be in a narrative form like this. This can be in bullets. We're not looking for the teacher to write us an entire paper on how they meet this portion of the standard. We want to ensure that challenges are here. 1 to 2 challenges is all, and that they really are challenges. So what may be within the classroom, the district, within their own practice, do they want to take a look at because they feel like perhaps they could more directly meet this standard, or an area or a way in which they want to meet this standard more clearly in the future. So we want to think back to the purpose of the self-assessment. The self-assessment is for the teacher to look at the prompt and consider their own teaching practice. This is not where the teacher tells us every single thing that they do to meet that standard. That would be an incredible paper on each prompt. So what we're looking for is that the teacher understands the standards and has given us 1 or 2 items. So when reviewing this, we have to be careful not to consider that these are the only things that the teacher does. These are the 2 strongest areas that the teacher has chosen, and then the 2 largest challenges for them. They may have more strengths, they may have challenges, they may have things in between, whatever we want to call those, working on them. So when you look at this, if we get too caught up in the details of, oh my gosh, they're not using this standard in this assessment or that assessment, we're not saying they're not. We've only asked the teacher to support that they meet this standard in 1 or 2 ways and that they have 1 or 2 challenges. So another piece we want to remember, this is one piece of the entire induction process. So if we wanted to look at the teacher's entire practice, we would have to go through everything they've submitted for 2 years. We'd have to look at their inquiries. We'd have to look at their Module A. We'd have to look at their initial Module B. We'd have to look at all of their self-assessments. I'm not saying that we aren't concerned when a teacher doesn't have much there, But if we're looking for their complete practice in meeting this prompt, no one will ever meet it. So that's just that philosophical piece to it. So we want to go down, we're still in pedagogy. We're going to look at this prompt, multi-tiered intervention. I'll tell you right away, this is a challenging one for teachers to really understand what multi-tiered means. Then we go to learning environment. Notice that all of these say how I create, and that's really the key. So notice this person's response is, I have created a safe and healthy learning environment. Some teachers will just say that, and then they'll go on to say, all of my students feel comfortable, all of my students can speak out in class, they raise their hands and participate. Sorry, that didn't tell us how they create that environment. So that's really our focus. How do you do it? So you can tell me you do it, but I don't really understand what you're saying until you tell me how you do it, and then what the challenges are. So as we go through, here's technology. This is the technology prompt for that same standard. So we're still on standard 2.5 pedagogy. So let's assume, there are a couple different ways I can do this. Let's assume I want to make a comment. I'm not in haiku right now. I can make a comment here within the prompt or their response to the prompt. But I always want to make sure I have something up here that's going to direct that teacher to look down in their work. So when it's please resubmit, okay, sorry. Now remember, I'm not in haiku right now. I have pulled this out as a separate document for us to use. I perhaps have left comments within the document specifically to a particular prompt. What I'm going to put here is please see comments within text, in blue text. Okay, that's not very good, but you get the idea. I better direct them there because I don't want them to spend the time scanning their whole document. I want to tell them where to go. So I might even say see technology. And they're going to go down to my comment where maybe I've specifically highlighted something or I've done something specific to that. So I'm going to get rid of this. And once I've done this and signed off, I'm going to send it back to the teacher. I'm going to write my message. I'm going to either put an X for complete or an R for resubmit. Those are really the two that we use when we're reviewing documents like this. I'm going to go to a different one. Okay, I put it in blue so that we all remember this is a different one. So we're back to the same standard. We're looking at the prompts. Notice this looks different though. This teacher has placed evidence here of where we could find information about this prompt in their practice. So this reminds us once again, the self-assessment is not designed to state everything in their practice that meets this prompt. It's they're pulling out from their practice those things that are their greatest strength and their biggest challenges. So we would have to look literally at all these things plus more if we really wanted to get a picture of their entire practice. This is one piece. So the reason I pulled this out is this teacher has their strength. They don't label it. That's fine. Notice they start this, the challenge. I know where they're going. So they're telling me a challenge. When I go down to the remaining ones though, I don't expect you to read this that quickly. They give me their strengths, but if ever anyone misses anything, it's their challenges. So this person knows to include challenges, but either was doing it quickly or got so focused on the strengths that they forgot to put their challenges. So we need both strengths and challenges in the hopes that as they're reviewing their practice through this process, they're going to come up with the topic and developing the question for their next inquiry. So I think that's everything about self-assessments. I'm sorry it's so long, but I wanted to give you both the here's how you get to it, here's how you assess it, here's the actual string of paperwork, and the real purpose and what we look for in the self-assessment. Thank you.